Hi, hello guys, my name is Mia Marie, and you are currently watching my Synastry Compatibility series where I go through all the 12 signs, sun signs, and how they get along. Now, as a general disclaimer, we reference so much more than just the sun sign for compatibility, but the importance of the sun and understanding someone's sun sign and accepting it and supporting it is that the sun sign describes the motives, the behaviors, the experiences that contribute to someone's sense of sanity. So we're not talking so much about what someone needs emotionally or how they flirt or what makes them great in bed, all of those very, romantic topics. We're talking about how to support someone's vitality, someone's sense of self, and someone's healing human journey. So keep in mind that this is just a gentle introduction, and you can get so much more by booking a session with me or another fantastic astrologer. Someone who is born with the sun in Leo has come to Earth to self-actualize and self-realize. All of their behaviors, their thoughts, their failures, their successes, everything is an effort to accomplish that mission. Who am I? What is my real personality? What can I do to get the applause and the attention that I deserve? They take, being the second fire sign, they take the identity that Aries has established and they create a personality that they market and then they perform it. Now, Leo always runs the risk of adjusting themselves and their tone to get the standing ovation. But what ends up happening is as they're trying on all these different faces and they're getting approval, they still don't feel like they're being seen and valued and appreciated, and so it can create some dissonance in their younger years. As they get older, they have to practice a different type of strength. Aries is physical strength, Leo is mental strength, committing to staying with oneself, developing one's skills, paying attention to their urge and desire for creativity. It's a very creative sign. It's represented by the sun, and the sun is what gives everything on earth life. It is vitality. And so their sanity is closely tied with their ability to create something or perform something or even try to children. Leos are, generally speaking, really good with children because, again, going back to that wound around joy and being appreciated, they know what a child needs innately to thrive. And so they will often be the number one supporter of a child in whatever endeavor that they choose. They show up, with the signs, or they're the coach, or in any way that they can, they make sure that that child feels the same validation that they expect in their own partnerships and in life. And in fact, it's really good for the spirit, especially if a Leo is kind of feeling down and out, for them to be around kids because it allows their inner child to come out and play. It immediately reconnects them with joy. Children remind them about the lighter side, about the importance of creativity and the importance of engaging, say like with a team. Now with fire signs, again, we're continuing the theme of leadership. So Leos often find themselves in positions of authority and power, and they tend to do pretty well because they carry this nobility, this responsibility to please the crowd, to do what's best for everybody. But Leo is different than, say, Aries because it's a fixed sign, which means that it can be quite stubborn. Once it's made up its mind, once it's committed to something, it can be kind of hard, like Taurus, Scorpio, Aquarius. It can be hard for them to switch directions. They don't like unexpected information. They don't like the plans changing, especially if they're not the ones who initiated it. And they can also be fiercely loyal and protective over the people that they love, kind of like the lion being the king of the jungle. They use their energy and their vitality, of course, to have fun and throw parties and celebrate life, but they will also protect life. They're very scary. They have a hot temper once pushed. But that fixed quality can often lead Leo, I've seen, it can lead them to stay in places longer than they need to. Like so long as they're getting some kind of recognition or approval, if they're getting something out of the transaction, then they will stay in the relationship or they'll stay in the job, even though it's not something that they really like or find fulfilling, something that is completely devoid of creativity, for example. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Leo is a socially oriented sign, which means that when it looks out into the world, it's never just thinking about itself. It's thinking about everybody else too. And they often get irked when they're around people who only think about themselves. Like, for example, I have a lot of Aries energy in my chart, and my cousin has a lot of Leo. And one of her biggest complaints to me is like, it's not all about you. And they'll feel that way towards Aries, Taurus, Gemini. They have the clan mentality of Cancer, where there's a group of people that they are quite comfortable with, that they act as a protector over, but they need groups of people to stay stimulated and to stay engaged. They're not a lone soldier. You can't, Leos don't want to be alone. Some deal breakers for Leo. So as I said, they're here to reestablish the relationship with joy, and they're a socially oriented sign. So they judge themselves by how people receive them and how they sparkle in the eyes of others. So if they've worked, say for example, really hard on a creative project and they present it to you and you dismiss them over and over again, if you're someone who's tapped out, if you're someone who is not ever giving, if you're not a cheerleader for them, then eventually they're going to get tired of being let down, because what happens is it stimulates that wound from childhood that they're not doing enough, that they are not worthy enough. Now, they're not going to think about it that way. All they're going to know is that it hurts and it doesn't feel good, and they're going to start going to somebody else for attention, because it's not just like, oh my God, you need attention. It's like, no, that attention means something, and it means something about me to me, and it validates who I am and my personality. So it's not a surface level thing for a Leo. Being acknowledged, being celebrated by someone that they value helps them heal that wound around creativity, and it allows them to show up authentically in life. Not that they should always rely on that, but they shouldn't have a partner who doesn't appreciate their creative efforts. Another thing they don't appreciate is if you're a Debbie Downer, if you're overly emotional, if you are bringing down the vibe. Like the sun every morning, they like to rise, they like to grow, and they like to see that their energy is bringing life and inspiration and motivation and activation to the people around them. So if you're unmotivated, and if you are just sitting here swirling in your head about all of these different things and you're never in the present moment, they're not going to like that either. Leos tend to do a lot, and they do it big. They think that life is one giant act, one giant performance. We're thinking like Jennifer Lopez vibes. And so having a partner who is intimidated or turned off by that type of lifestyle and tells them to play smaller or speak a little lower or to just calm down is not the right person. It's going to kill their pilot light. It's going to depress their energy, their vitality in the long run. Leos are also very prideful. They take pride in what they do, they take pride in who they are, and they take pride in their relationship. So if you're someone who goes out into the world and makes a fool of yourself, if you are a public nuisance, if you embarrass them in any way, they're going to want to create distance from you, and they may even leave the relationship because you are an extension of them in your eyes, and they expect that you will live up to their expectations. And they will also make sure that when they show up to your events, that they are a reflection of you, and they bring their best selves to the table. When someone has their sun in Sagittarius, we see a soul that comes to earth in effort to understand, accept, and love the other, whatever that means to them. And their job is to turn around and teach the rest of us how to understand, accept, and love the other. They want the world to feel bigger. That is a quality of Sagittarian love or Sagittarian energy, is if it's good, make it bigger. It's ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is the planet that is the same size as all the other planets combined, but it's filled with nothing but hot air. And so Sagittarius has this tendency from time to time to overpromise and underdeliver. And it's not because you just fall low on their list of priorities that they don't show up. It's that they want to say yes to everything. If they could, they would be everywhere at once, because they're stimulated that way. In order to understand other people, you have to subject yourself to multiple different situations. And this is why they also enjoy traveling, because there is this inner knowing or recognition of perspectives and how limited they can be. And so when they're traveling or They need to get away for a little bit. It's not just them needing a vacation and they're just running around, running away from responsibilities. They are actually doing soul work when they're out there. They're having conversations. They're learning about how other people operate in the world and what they believe and why they believe that. And so freedom is really important to a Sagittarius because it feeds their soul. It contributes to their motive to learn, accept, and love. Now, Sagittarius is a fire sign and it is Jupiter. So this is someone who feels really positive. They're optimistic, they're expansive, they're typically learned, they have a talent or skill, or there's just something that they know really well, and they seem to have, it's like they're born with this wise old man inside of them. They have wisdom to share with other people, and they often position themselves, low functioning, is like they're preaching at you, but they're a professor of sorts to the rest of us. Now, being the third fire sign, Sagittarius takes the ego that Aries has established, the personality that Leo has created and celebrated, and then goes, okay, I'm kind of done with the social thing. I'm ready for something bigger. What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? And so oftentimes they will subscribe to a specific belief system, a philosophy that they've learned, or they have some kind of religious background or religious association. And what you will see more often than not is that they grew up in an environment where certain beliefs were instilled in them. And there happens to be like an aha moment where they recognize either, yes, this is for me and I'm going to build on it, or, oh, I actually think that life works differently. Let me go and figure it out. Sagittarius has a reputation of being hesitant to commit. They like to keep their options open. And the main reason behind that is they're like a wild horse. They need to know that they can go anywhere, that they can explore anything at any time. And the idea of a relationship inherently means that there have to be boundaries somewhere. And they're like, what? Does that mean I have to stay in this stable? They tend to be extreme also. And so when things are presented to them, they'll take it to the fullest extreme. Oh, if I'm in a relationship, I'm just hanging out with you all day, and it makes them feel bound. And that goes against everything that they live for, everything that they stand for, everything that they're trying to accomplish. They have a big mission. They're a universally oriented sign. And so you can see why as soon as they think of relationship, it's like, no. But what I found is that Sagittarius characters are excellent in relationships, but so long as you are willing to be truthful and to have honest conversations about what the other person needs, and there needs to be a mutual respect and understanding for the other person's agenda. So if you are someone who is independent and you have your own hobbies and your own life going, then this should be a pretty easy match because they do always come back. They need to touch base. They need to come home. They're not like Gemini, where Gemini has no problem being homeless spiritually. Sagittarius likes a place where it can go back to rest. And so I think that they are good at relationships, but you can't cage them in. If they want to travel for a couple of weeks alone, you have to be able to manage your own insecurity and be like, you know what? I see what you're doing. I support you. Have fun. Have the best time of your life. If you want to be in constant communication with them, if you want to go with them everywhere, unless you're a wild horse too, then you guys can mom together. They just don't want to be stopped. So it's not that they don't like shared experiences. It's not that they need to be independent. They just need someone who's going to carry the same energy as them because they are very much aware of how people are coming off and they are sensitive to negative or low functioning energy. And so at the beginning of the relationship, they might tolerate it for a little bit, but they'll be very quick to just say, it doesn't feel good. And they may even create distance and just start doing things by themselves. Another thing is that even when they are in relationships, they are still flirty and playful with other people because they really just have so much energy and so much curiosity that they can spread themselves very thin. And it's not necessarily that they have more interest in somebody else. It's just like, oh, that's new. That's new. I haven't seen that before. Let me go talk to that. And so kind of having, I don't want to say thick skin because they're not overtly disrespectful in my personal experience, but you will find them from time to time being flirtatious with somebody else. And it's like, okay, have your fun. And you know when they cross the line because they're not going to be quiet about it. All other aspects to the side. Pure Sagittarius energy is not going to be quiet about the disrespect. It'll be obvious. It'll be right in front of you. And it's important to remember that it is ruled by the element of fire. And so they need something to burn. They need something to do. If there's nothing to do, if there's nothing to explore, if there's nothing that they're working on that provides meaning and value, they are going to burn themselves out. And because they're so optimistic, they're going to forget what it feels like when they push themselves to that extreme or when they're unstimulated in that way. So they can find themselves in that rut time and time again. But, you got to feed the fire. Being a sign that's here to learn and understand life deeply and examine life deeply and make meaning of it, they appreciate someone who is also intelligent, someone who is focused on growing and learning and developing, because they want a stimulating conversation. They don't actually get off to always having power or always having authority. They want to feel like their partner is accelerating in their development with them. Again, like two wild horses running together is what they would like ideally. Some deal breakers for Sagittarius. One thing that will immediately turn them off and make them pissed off is if you're not being honest and they know it. If they have collected like evidence towards you, or if they've seen something firsthand, or if they just have a gut feeling that something is off and they confront you and you're nervous to own up to your own shit or to have an uncomfortable conversation, they're not going to like it. And the blessing is that it is a fire sign. So for the most part, they get hot really quickly, but they also want to go back to that positive charge really quickly. So their goal is to let's just put it out on the table. Like, what's going on right now? Tell me what you're thinking. Tell me what you're feeling so we can move past it. They don't want to stay in a dark place, especially in their relationships. Another thing that they don't like is, again, being held too tightly. It's like Sagittarius, even though, it's not a water sign, it's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter that you grasp it, it's just going to spill. It's a slippery lover. It has parallels to like the theory of money and abundance. It's a slippery lover. And so it comes to you and it stays with you so long as you are willing to share it. So if they come to you and you're wanting to hold them and keep them and you're just tight and tense, just like money, just like abundance, they're going to stop coming to you because they're for the streets. They're for the world. And so yes, you can't put a leash on a Sagittarius. You just have to trust that they will come home, and they will. Also, if you are inflexible, if you believe what you believe and you're unwilling to at least understand, the bare minimum is just understand. If you are unable to show that you can comprehend what they've learned and what they're integrating, then they're going to find you boring, stale, and unattractive. Another important quality is that they are spontaneous. Sometimes the fire is just lit at any hour of the day, and so they appreciate someone who is adventurous. For example, if you are laying in bed, it's like 3 a.m, and Sagittarius wakes up and goes, "Hey, do you want to go to Japan tomorrow?" The ideal partner is going to say, "Why don't we get up, make some coffee or make some tea, and let's talk about it." Now, someone who's not going to be a good match for Sagittarius is someone who dismisses the impetus to explore, who looks at them and says, "It's 3 a.m. We have responsibilities. What are you doing?" Contractual. It's someone who's tight, right? No. Entertain the inspiration. Let them see it through. Sun in Leo, Sun in Sagittarius, 2 fire babies coming together. This is going to be a hot, fiery, passionate situationship is what I think it's going to be. It does have the potential to last long term, but it's just so hot that I don't know if either one of them is equipped to maintain the fire and, not burn the whole house down. So to begin with, two fire signs, we have two extroverted people. Now, if you have other placements, water, earth, energy in your chart, specifically if it's dominant in your chart, you may find that you're more introverted, but speaking solely to these sun signs, these are two people who wake up in the morning and they're kind of slow until they're in motion, because once they're in motion, they light their inner pilot light and they're ready to roll. They gain energy by being in motion. And so these two people are on the same rhythm, on the same schedule. And so there's no battles about when we're going home. These people want to have the most fun. Leo is a socially oriented sign, and it wants to shine brightly in the eyes of the people around it. And Sagittarius is like, shine, 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 brighter, brighter, brighter. Sagittarius isn't really out here measuring dicks to see who's getting more attention, because in fact, if Sagittarius is dating you, they want you to be someone who is, magnetic and glittery and has gravity, and Leo is all of those things. Leo will love Sagittarius's support and energy and vibes. Now, if you have a Sagittarius with tons of Scorpio, it might be a little bit different. The scorpionic qualities might come out in terms of possessiveness, and you can tell because pure Sagittarius energy wants your world to be bigger, and Scorpio's love is this is a tight group and no one else is welcome. But Leo wants to get to know everyone in the room. There's a nobility to a Leo. They like to have fun, but they also exercise character control, and that works well with the Sagittarius, and it encourages Sagittarius to step into the wisdom, the wealth of wisdom that it has. And so I see that they step more sure-footedly when they're together. And Leo doesn't exactly take what Sagittarius does personally. Now, if Sagittarius is getting belligerently drunk and making a fool of itself and being the idiot with its foot in its mouth, Leo is going to have some choice words about it, because Leo also views Sagittarius as an extension of itself, and Leo does not like looking dumb. It is the king and queen of the kingdom, and so these two can have very fiery arguments where the Leo is roaring at Sagittarius, and Sagittarius might just have an outburst and storm out, or whatever it may be. There is just an explosion that happens between the two of them. And so Sagittarius does this thing where it is flirty and kind of works the room in a way that it's kind of has its feelers out, because it's so curious about everybody in a very deep way. And Leo isn't going to respond like Aries. Aries will be like, what did you do? Aries will take it more personally. Leo will be like, oh yeah, you think this person shines? Watch me. And they'll put on a huge performance and kind of draw Sagittarius back in just by being themselves. But in no way, shape, and form will Leo entertain or allow, infidelity, disrespect, all the things that fly in the face of what a king or queen deserves. Now, Sagittarius is a universally oriented sign, and it has a thirst for experience that could never be quenched. They're here to dissolve the boundary, or not the boundaries, but the walls that exist between people and cultures. And so they're collecting as much information on whoever the other is in order to bring an explanation or an understanding to that other, and maybe, pave the path for not unconditional love, but love and acceptance of, people who we would naturally turn a blind eye to or judge or criticize. When these two come together, the world truly does get bigger. Now, Leo may have some feelings about Sagittarius leaving for extended periods of time, or, wanting to take trips and adventures, because even though Leo is a fire sign and loves going on vacations, Leo people are typically workhorses. They care about what they're doing. They have a schedule, they follow that schedule, they have a to-do list. They almost have a very Virgo quality, almost, because we're not quite there yet. But this is someone who doesn't just take time off work for the fuck of it, because they want to make sure that they are providers and sustainers for the environment. And so this whimsical kind of go with the flow attitude that Sagittarius has, Sagittarius will just be like, I'm making time to go on a vacation. And Leo might be like, well, I can't make time because I have, the end of the quarter is coming up and I have all these tasks to do. And then also, Leo does want some form of consistency, predictability, and loyalty. As a fixed sign, it will require commitment. And Sagittarius might have a hard time agreeing to Leo's terms. Now, this is where, again, we see transparency, authenticity, and either true partnership, or it becomes a make or break, because Leo is not going to compromise its respect or its expectations to have a partner. And Sagittarius isn't going to try and pull a fast one over you and lie to your face. They're going to be upfront about what they can do, And even if they're trying to fool themselves into thinking that they want a relationship, when they go out with Leo like once or twice, Leo will understand where Sagittarius is at energetically or mentally or emotionally and adjust their actions accordingly. So, it really could go either way. You want to look at the moon signs, you want to look at the Mercury signs, and also the Venus, of course, because Venus is connectivity, moon is mood, temperament, how they're going to emotionally respond to each other, what their non-negotiables are as it relates to love and connectivity. And then Mercury, do you guys speak the same language? I do think that Mercury is an under-discussed aspect or placement in synastry, and I think it's because most people are like, Mercury is just the mind. Why do I care about what this person thinks? How this person makes sense of the world, how this person sees the world. In my mind, I think that's very important, because what happens is if you're not, compatible in that way, you're going to expend a significant amount of energy trying to explain yourself or, try and get things done. So do look at all of those things. Let's see, some problem areas. Things get hot and cold quite quickly with these people, as I've said, because they're both fire signs. They get really hot really quickly, and they want to turn it down as soon as possible because they're both positively oriented signs, which means that they want to feel optimistic. They want to feel positive. Specifically for Leo, it is so important to experience joy and to see their value and their worth in the eyes of their partner. They really want someone to be their cheerleader and to be there for them. I think that Leo will really appreciate all the which ways that Sagittarius lights them up. Sagittarius is very open mouth. So if, Leo walks in, glitz and glamour, Sagittarius' mouth is going to be on the floor like, oh my God, you're so beautiful, you're so hot, you're so sexy. And Leo's going to be like, yes. I am. Thank you. Bring it on. And also Sagittarius will admire that Leo is willing to try new things, to be adventurous, from time to time. I think the frequency with which Sagittarius wants to step away and venture out is higher than Leo. But, some troubles may arise because Leo might look at Sagittarius as kind of like a playmate or something off in the distance that is really fun in measured amounts of time, but it might be unsustainable. There might be too much fluidity, too much openness for a Leo to feel safe and secure committing to this relationship. Now, that is just me being like overly cynical, pointing out something that could be working underneath the surface. All in all, I think that this is a fabulous combination, but it is only one configuration of over 2,000 astrology charts are incredibly personalized. So if you would like to learn more about your relationship or just your life, your birth chart, you can find me at wellandrising.com/services. Toodles.